Yo, what's good? It's your man, 100 Grand, Ross with The Rock Never Stops. And today's video is going to be on these Toronto Raptors. It's going to be a mix in between a recap of the Game 6 elimination game against the Philadelphia 76ers, but it's also going to be a what's next, for this team. All right. If you like this video, smash the like button for me, hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. And you know you can get at me on Twitter at Rock Never Stops 2. That's the number 2. Yo, first off, let me just say the Toronto Raptors made it to Game 6 in a 4-5 matchup against the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm proud of them. I'm proud of them. This season, by no means did we go in expecting them to be this good, to get to the number 5 seed. At least I didn't. I saw Pascal Siakam coming in off an injury, missing time early on. I saw a team that's still trying to figure themselves out in terms of all these new additions. Who is this Scotty Barnes going to be? I know what his potential is, but what is he going to be on the court? Gary Trent Jr. is coming from Portland the previous year, showing a lot of potential at the end of the year. Let's see how he's integrated into the system. We didn't know Fred VanVleet was going to evolve into an all-star. Those who say that they did, okay, if you want to give yourself that, right? This season, I don't want to call it an overachievement, but they certainly surpassed my expectations for them. And so going into this series against the Philadelphia 76ers, I looked at their previous track record throughout the season, and I was like, yo, they gave the Philadelphia 76ers headaches. And one of the reasons why they gave them headaches is because Philly was still figuring themselves out. They didn't have James Harden, right? They had Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, and they looked pretty good. They looked pretty good. I felt like they had better continuity when it was just those two with Tobias Harris and Danny Green and the rest of them, right? But then they brought in James Harden, and it threw a big monkey wrench in the whole system of things over in Philly. They're trying to figure it out with all the media fanfare. They had to kind of like go inside of themselves and really figure out who they were going to be. And I thought that the Toronto Raptors in this series were going to be able to disrupt their ability to do that in time. And I gave Toronto a fair shot to win it. Well, Philadelphia figured it out a little bit sooner than we all thought. They figured out, and if you watch my other videos that I posted about the Philadelphia 76ers, and definitely what I posted about James Harden, I said that for Philly to figure this out, to put it all together, they had to make Tyrese Maxey the number 2. Number 2 scoring option. A dominant ball guard. Somebody who was going to be attacking the basket, creating shots for himself and others, looking to get out in transition and being a major component of their offensive system. And sure enough, that's what they do right from the get-go, right off the bat. Tyrese Maxey has a huge game 1. He dwindles off a little bit going into 3, 4, 5. But then he figures it out in game 6. Turns out another 20-something points. And that's all she wrote. Now here's the thing. The Toronto Raptors are a talented team. Are they more talented than the Philadelphia 76ers? No. No. And I can be real about that. I love Toronto. I love this roster. I love this team. I love the makeup. I love all of it. But are they more talented than Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and James Harden? Maybe you got Pascal Siakam above Harden. I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But they're not more talented than them right now. I mean, you could say Pascal's better than Tyrese Maxey. I know some people are going to come at me on that. So yeah. But if you look at the depth of talent, a real verified, playoff solidified talent, Tobias Harris, Danny Green, guys who have been in the battles, who've been able to get championships before. This Toronto team is not as talented as Philadelphia. But that's not to say that they didn't turn in one hell of a job. OG Anunoby, he had another strong year, showing he's taking steps forward, even if they are kind of like midway steps. They aren't big steps where you're like, oh, shoot, is he an all-star now? No. Still a great defender, and he's a little bit better off the bounce. That's still really good for you. But what this team is going to have to figure out is what their expectation is over the next 2 to 3 years. Because if it's a championship over the next 2 to 3 years, they're going to have to make some changes. I love what Chris Boucher did in the series, especially in this closeout game. He showed a fearlessness. He was aggressive. But he's not your answer. He's not your answer to your center position. He's kind of barely your answer as your first big off the bench, even though I think Precious Achiuwa is kind of like, you know, sliding into his minutes. And so when you start looking at this roster and you're thinking about what they're going to be able to accomplish moving forward, they're going to have some real questions in front of them. I like that they were able to answer if Pascal Siakam can be a go-to guy. He proved in the second half of this season and in the playoffs, yes, he can. He can be somebody you go to get you a bucket. But there's levels to this. There's levels. There are guys who can go get you buckets. And then there's guys who you look to shape the game. To say, you know what? I need you to dominate for a stretch against playoff teams in a playoff environment. Pascal Siakam had great performances. He didn't dominate in a way that the team or the opposing team had to move around him and adjust to him, right? There's something called gravity that players have, right? Pascal, I haven't seen it yet, that he doesn't have that gravity. He doesn't have that ability to make plays, to make others better at such a high level that the opposing team has to focus so much attention on him that it really shifts how the whole game is played. He's not that yet. But I will say this. Every year he comes back better. Every year he takes another step forward. And for Pascal Siakam, it's going to need to be to continue to iron out what he did extremely well in this series, which is shooting off the dribble, like that one dribble straight up, getting his shot off seamlessly without a lot of extra spins and cuts and crossovers, and be able to go right into a shot for himself. I think that can be ironed out. His three-point shooting definitely needs to be ironed out some more. His facilitation and playmaking, all those things, and I think he will. I think he will. You know, when you look at this roster, one of the beautiful things about it is you know that each of these players has a work ethic, and they have a culture there where everybody is getting better. Everybody's working on their game because this institution, this organization expects everyone to get better. They bet on it. They support them with it. They give them opportunities to prove it and show it. Guys like Precious Achiuwa. Yo, he came in out of Miami. I could tell he was probably shell-shocked in Miami. They tried to turn him into Bam Adebayo, even though he told him, hey, yo, I'm more like a Pascal Siakam. I'm a forward. I'm not a center. But they wanted him to go down there and bang. He wasn't what they wanted him to be. And when he got to Toronto, he was a bit shell-shocked. He was a bit kind of stunted. Like, I don't know what you guys expect of me. And they're like, yo, go out there and be great. Be you. This is how we play. And he's like, you sure? And he spent the first month or so like, are you sure I can just do this? And they was like, yo, do it. Nick Nurse was like, do it. Masai Ujiri was like, do it. And you know what? By the end of this season, going into the playoffs, Precious Achiuwa is looking like a beast. Now picture an off season where he gets to refine his game, not become something that somebody else wants him to be, but to be the best version of himself, to iron out his playmaking. I mean, his handle looked real crispy by the end of the season. But let's work on that facilitation. A few times he drove into the paint, Joel Embiid slid over it, and he missed the dump off, right? He's got to work on that, and I'm sure he will. OG Anunoby, I need a bigger step. Because I'm going to be real with you. As good as you are, I don't know if you're better than Scotty Barnes. And I don't know if what we pay you, and I'm speaking we as if I'm the organization, but I don't know if what the Toronto Raptors pay OG Anunoby, if it's going to be worth him eventually being a sixth man. Because remember, next season they got to pay Gary Trent Jr. and Fred VanVleet. They're going to have to make decisions about people's paycheck. And even though the salary cap is going up, they're going to have to look and say, hey, if we're a first round exit, how high above the salary cap can we go? Now, if we're looking to be a contender going to the second and third rounds, now you can go a little bit further into the luxury tax. And so, OG Anunoby, we're going to need a bigger jump from you. We're going to need you to really start ironing out that offensive game and showing some more consistency. And I mean staying healthy, but also being able to give us 17, 18 points a game consistently. And Gary Trent Jr., very much so the same, but I will say that's more in Gary Trent Jr.'s nature. He's been a scorer his entire career. He's been an elite scorer since high school, since junior high. He's the son of an NBA player. This is not a big adjustment for him. And if we saw in this closeout game, he was extremely aggressive. He was extremely aggressive. He got to his spots, made his shots. His three-point shot wasn't dropping throughout this series. So what does he do? He gets to that mid-range, finds his shot, and he was butter right around that free throw line. You saw he kept getting back to that area, right? So I can see him taking another step, becoming that 20-something points a game scorer, which they're going to need moving into next season. And so at the end of the day, we're still looking at the Toronto Raptors to still get a center. I mean that's going to be clutch. They got to get a center. They got to get somebody down there who can at least keep Joel Embiid's attention defensively. And the guy who I actually started thinking about recently is Christian Wood. Christian Wood in Houston, let's be clear, the boy is not happy down there. He's a high-intensity, high-energy player who's got a huge chip on his shoulder, was underrated coming in out of college, even though he was a top high school recruit. And he's got a great versatile game, very similar to what the Toronto Raptors already do. Imagine a thicker Chris Boucher, what you saw him do in this last game. Imagine him stronger and more athletic. That's Christian Wood. And so I want to see what they do to address that center position. I still like Bol also. I think he could be a good option. But I think that one of those guys would be great to pursue and to bring in so that you don't have to play Pascal, Scotty, OG at that center position or defending centers as much. Because Christian Wood being able to draw a Joel Embiid out to that three-point line, that's going to be huge. That's going to be huge. Taking him off the dribble, that's going to be huge. So let me know what you guys think. I got all these ideas about the Raptors offseason. Holla at me. I'm probably going to do another video later. But if you like this video, smash the like button for me. Hit subscribe, the bell for notifications, and we'll keep the conversation going on Twitter for sure. I'm going to holla at y'all next time. Get at your boy. Peace.